It's been an interesting presidency. You were involved in as close to this probably as anyone, certainly as long as anyone. I know Donald Trump. I don't know him as well as you do because you've been in his inner circle for a long time. Why did you decide to write this book, and why did you decide to write it when you did?
Couple things. It's funny when you said that. You don't know him as well as I do. I don't think I know him as well as I thought I did or hoped I did. Um, the book I wrote, actually, I resigned on January 6th. I was the first one to resign when the insurrection was happening. And I left. I didn't plan to write a book. In fact, I'd already always told Melania Trump that people who wrote books were disgusting. I hated it, et cetera, et cetera. And then I got a lot of questions about a lot of things, and a lot of things happened to me personally at the end. And I just wanted to put it down. I wanted to put it down for myself, for my kids, for my grandkids, and anyone who would be interested, which I didn't have any notions that people would be interested or believe. People are going to believe what they want to. I've learned that in the last 5 years. But I wrote it for myself. A lot of things happened at the end that really crushed me. And, still to this day, I struggle with loyalty to them. I do, because I was with them for a very long time. Which is why I'm excited to talk to you, because I think you'll have a lot of insights into just kind of the psyche of things.
I'm glad that you're bringing that up right at the top because I know people are often conflicted about this. You knew them, you spent time with them, particularly Melania. Would you say you guys were friends?
I thought we were friends. I don't think that I was correct, but I thought we were friends. I cared for her deeply. I was very protective of her. I grew to admire her. I admired her strength and her viewpoints on her husband personally and professionally as president. I thought we were friends, but I'm not sure that she felt the same way, even though I thought she did. I do.
Do you feel betrayed by her?
At the end. It's funny because there was a story that was done saying by an anonymous source that, she helped me personally and professionally. And I read that and I was like, she did. I agree with that. But I also helped her professionally and personally. And at the end, a lot of things happened that I shared with her. I've got emails about it, texts about it, and she didn't help me. And these weren't just like, hey, people are being mean to me. These were pretty big things. So at the end, I did feel very betrayed by her, yes.
What exactly was it that she did that caused you? Because you said you felt close to them, you felt loyal to them, you still have a tug of war about that, even with what happened, but you don't feel that you shouldn't have done this or you wouldn't have done it. What happened that gave you permission, gave you license personally with your own moral compass
Hmm.
to write this book?
A couple things. So number one, I want to say I left a lot out in the book. So in terms of being loyal, I still left a lot out, and both of them know that. For me at the end, I went to her specifically over and over about Mark Meadows and some of his staff and some of the things they were trying to do to me, say about me, spread about me, especially leaks, which was just asinine because in 6 years I'd never leaked about them. Um, there was I'm just going to say it. There was a whole rumor spread that I was trashed on election night. I was drunk. I did all these bad things, and she was with me and she herself said, I don't know what they're talking about, but she didn't go any further. And after that amount of time knowing me the way she did, it was very hard for me that, Trump got to choose his chief of staff over a person who had been around since the beginning. And then, I had some personal issues. I have to be careful talking about this because I'm being sued right now for defamation, but I had a personal relationship and I shared with the president and the first lady that I had been abused and they didn't do anything about it. And that was really hard for me because at that time I wrongfully, obviously, felt like I was a daughter or at the very least close with them, and they didn't do anything. And that was tough for me.
You're being sued for defamation by who?
By a gentleman named Max Miller who worked at the White House.
Is that who you alleged had transgressed against you?
Well, I mean, honestly, I never have said his name. I have never written about it. I've never said his name. When I did write an op-ed in the WAPO, my point was to say that somebody had hurt me and that they didn't do anything about it. But he is now suing me for defamation. That's public, so I think it's okay to say it. And then the president of the United States has backed him for a role in Congress.
So when you went to the two of them, you wanted them to step in and consecrate that behavior in some way, to do something about it.
I wanted them to make me feel safe. And,
Right.
I think that by that point I had shown that I was an honest, true player with them. And I wanted them to make me feel safe. And they didn't.
When you told them about it, what did they do? What did they say?
She was wonderful at the moment. She said, "Did you go to the police?" I said I didn't because he's about to run for re-election and we have had enough domestic violence issues here. So I'm trying to stay quiet. Probably stupid on my part, but, that was what I felt at the time. So at the moment, she was really wonderful. He said, "I'm very surprised. He's broken up over this. I'm very surprised," and left it at that. And that was kind of the end of it. And then from there, a lot of things went around about me that I was, mentally unstable. I'm an alcoholic. I have a drug abuse problem, et cetera, et cetera. It's the normal Trump world. You smear people when, you're not happy with them. And for me, I wrongfully felt like they were, again, my friends or surrogate parents. And I thought that they would look out for me, and they did not.
Right. They were saying things about that you were an alcoholic, drug addict, etc. Was any of that true at any time in your life?
No, I have had a DUI, which I've explained in my book ad nauseum, but I grew up with an alcoholic parent. And so actually alcoholism and drug abuse, which also runs in my family, not directly, but that's a very sensitive issue to me and very close to my heart. And when I worked for Mrs. Trump, opioid abuse was one of her big issues. And I was really invested in that because my family has seen the detriment of it. For me personally, absolutely not. No, because I refuse to go down that path. People who were close to me knew that. They knew about the DUI, and they chose to use that against me.
Yeah. Well, the reason I asked you about that was so you can clear it up 100% right here.
Yeah.
That what they were saying at the time that you were a drug addict, alcoholic, etc. None of that was true at the time or earlier.
No, and I want to say this too, and I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity. And number one, that is not true. No. Number two, when I was in the White House, I definitely struggled with anxiety, and I had a prescription for Xanax, and I took it very responsibly, and it was monitored by a doctor. And people very close to me, I trusted with that because I didn't feel I was doing anything wrong. I think used that like she was addicted. I wasn't. I was using it for anxiety. Hey, I still have anxiety and I still use it sometimes. And I'll be very honest about that. And there's nothing to be ashamed of in that regard. When it comes to alcohol, again, it runs in my family. And so on election night was the big, when they pushed that. Did I have a couple glasses of wine? Yes. We were at the election party where I had not voted for my boss. I was stressed out. People were already pushing all kinds of things about me, but I was not drunk. I did my job. And they tried to push pictures of me on the Daily Mail, of me in my office later laying on the floor with my feet up. But that's because any woman who knows about wearing high heels for 12 hours will know your feet hurt. So that was really hard for me. But also I'm kind of grateful for the lesson because now I look at people differently, I do. I look at people differently, and a photo doesn't mean you were trashed. I don't know. It was cruel.
When they didn't respond to that, that's one of the things that made you feel like this was a one-sided relationship.
Well, okay. So that night, election night, to talk about Mrs. Trump, she knew I was not drunk. I was with her most of the night. She told me over and over, "You weren't drunk. You were with me. You were in my bedroom." I honestly, that part didn't kill me as much because it didn't become public until after I decided to resign, which was expected. Again, I think the issue I had was Mark Meadows. He started accusing me of leaking stories, and the president was buying into it. And then again, when I spoke to the president and the first lady about something that happened to me personally, because they knew all about my personal relationship. They'd watched us start to date. When I told them what happened and nothing came of it, that was really hard for me. And I felt like, I don't know, I felt like for the first time, I felt like a person who tries to ask for help and people don't believe you or they don't care enough. And that was really hard. Yeah.